What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. Definitely wanted to get into episode 2 of Andor's breakdown, Easter eggs, and details that we missed from the new rock stars. Check this out.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Star Wars Andor Episode 2. My breakdown of Episode 1 is already on the channel, but I had to do a breakdown of Episode 2 separately because the Star Wars Easter eggs are fomented out there, sir. Buckets of fomented Easter eggs. If this show feels like a prestige HBO drama, it's because the casting department dug deep into the talent pool of HBO's Chernobyl. 3 of them! But let's break down all the subtle details that make me love this series so much. After the opening title shots, including B2EMO with the droids, and that Andor title with the Rebel sigil, notice Nicholas Bertel's music is slightly different from Episode 1 to Episode 2. Yeah, Bertel adds a bit more of a gallop to these strings, as Cassian in this episode has to pick up his pace to stay on the move from the forces now hunting him down. Even in the final shot of the episode, our man has to break into a jog, but we open on Kenari in another flashback, as young Cassa's Alpha tribe hikes to the crash site. A reptilian creature or a large insect crawls down a tree. Now at first we assumed this thing's head was at the top until it moves, and we realized we had it backwards. Such is the case with CassianAndor on this show. He is not truly defined until the guy has to move out of his stasis. As before, we do not get subtitles for these Kenari kids, nor do we need them. Notice they all wear scavenged, ill-fitting clothes of yellow, orange, and brown colors. One girl's clothes actually look like the orange Rebel pilot flight suit, whereas the taller, older kids can all step over that fallen tree to hop over it. Young Cassian's too short and has to sit on it and drag his butt over it, which is why he's having trouble keeping up. But they pass this vast pit that has been abandoned, and based on the dozens and dozens of terraces, it has been dug dozens of layers deep. We cannot even see the full rock bottom of this pit. You can see all these cave-ins on various sizes that have taken out the machinery and the infrastructure. So this project might have been attacked or bombed or sabotaged in some way, and then shortly after left behind, not even cleaned up. My theory is that Cassian and all these other alphas might have been the children of these excavators who died in the cave-ins. And the reason that their clothes are all matched and do not fit well is because those are the clothes of their parents and other workers who were working on the site who died. All this could explain why Cassian looks out of this pit with this look of wistfulness. Now back on Ferrix, there's a man credited as Time Grappler, a job that I would love to have, and he readies himself in the bell tower. I love the ring of the hammers just by setting them down in the middle of that bell. Now this Time Grappler is played by actor Neil Bell. I know, perfect name, right? But this guy actually appeared in Dune as the Sardaukar Bashar, where he got to show off his amazing vocal talent. Now, I want to quash a rumor right now that's going around about me. I am not, I repeat, not a duck. I'm not a duck. A lot of you are out there saying, oh, Eric's gonna be a duck since he loves having his wet feet. Well, I don't. I don't like wet feet. I like my feet to be nice and dry, which is why I've got a pair of Vessies. Yeah, I know, what a segue, but we got there. Thanks to Vessi for sponsoring this video and helping me prove that I'm not a duck. Vessi's here to keep you looking good while keeping your feet dry. Vessies are the perfect everyday shoe. They're sustainably made knit sneakers that are 100% waterproof. They're made with this Dymatex material that's super easy to clean with just a rinse of water.
Oh no! I spilled water all over my feetsy weetsies, but my oinky oinkies are bone dry like the Dune Sea. Thanks, Vessi.
If the weather is wet or if it's muddy, Vessies can help, unless you're a duck, which I'm not, because then you'd already have your duck feet. But for the rest of us, there's Vessi. Vessies are my go-to shoes. Check them out in the link below for your pair of your own Vessi shoes. Now notice how this bell is a piece of metal folded on itself so that no part touches another part. And based on the swirls of black in that gray metal, this might be Beskar. Now we know from the Mandalorian in the Book of Boba Fett that there was an Imperial purge on Mandalore taking all that planet's Beskar, but since Andor is set in 5 BBY, that would be years after this. I just love how dedicated this Time Grappler is to his job. There's no audience watching him. His movements are a kind of routine discipline, rage exertion, calculated to produce the most harmonic sound as possible from this metal, because this is a crucial function for the entire working town. Not only do they similarly bang metal to signal each other next episode, here everyone sets their clocks to this. The shipyard, the scrap workers, the shopkeeps. And so we see why Cassian needed such a firm alibi. This town does not stay awake at night. There's kind of a self-enforced curfew. Now, as Pegla turns off the shipyard lights, a few gaunt birds peck at the machinery, which I'm pretty sure are practical puppets. Unfortunately, these guys do not appear in the next wide shot though, which is a shame. These Disney Haunted Mansion birds need to be everywhere. These birds actually look like the steel pecker puppets that we saw in Jakku in The Force Awakens, but with their beaks painted black. Now the ships in this yard are all familiar models. The one closest to Pegla is the cockpit of a Y-Wing painted yellow, but its back engines might not be fully intact yet. It might be because the rebels would only now starting to be using these fighters from the Incom Corporation. Across the way on the right, painted blue and white, looks like the same model as the Bestoon Legacy, that's Ochi's starship from the Rise of Skywalker. And then in the back on the right, that looks like the VCX 100 Light Freighter, the same kind of model as the Ghost, Hera Syndulla's ship in Rebels. Now Bix and Tim see the message that Cyril Karn ordered to be flooded onto Ferrix's comms. More security seeking a Kenari male resident of Ferrix for questioning. Citizens with any information, please contact the Preorx Morlana security without delay. So it's not really common in Star Wars for human characters to be physically identified by their home planets like this. Like, it probably has happened, it's just not very common. Like, humans from Tatooine don't really look any different than humans from Naboo or planets from Corellia, despite the vastly different climates on those planets. But remember, last episode implied that Kenari is coded to mean having dark features, and there's definitely a parallel here in the way that real-world APBs often go out describing suspects with certain physical features. This series' first few episodes proceed with a pace and setting and theme similar to the slow burn of things like Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing and HBO's The Wire. Really, we're just living in a few days of a working life of an oppressed people with tensions rising and rising and rising to a boiling point, intercutting with cops who completely misunderstand this community, and really just because they're trying to avoid the ire of their bosses, who are completely disconnected from everything. Cassian returns home to meet Marva, played by Fiona Shaw, and it looks like Cassian pours himself some blue milk from a bottle. Of course, that's the bantha milk that Aunt Beru pours in the 1977 film and shows up in Rogue One in the opening scene. Marva has B2 read aloud the security post and asks Cassian who else knows he's from Kenari.
We have always said Fest. Every doc I've ever submitted has always said you were born on Fest. Have you ever said anything other than Fest?
Fest is an Outer Rim planet first mentioned in Rogue One visual guide, a planet that gets savaged by the Empire, creating a kind of refugee crisis. Cassian snaps at Marva for telling close friends Jezzy and Samo that he came from Kenari, but Marva lists off all of his women.
Femi, Carla,
Stop,
Sondri.
stop.
There's something they don't even know.
Bubba Vix.
Oh, and let's not forget Monica, Erica, Rita, Tina, Sandra, Mary, and Jessica. Now we learned that Marva's name is Marva Andor, so the name Andor came from her. In this home hang some yellow and red work gloves. These might be the ones missing from the wall last episode. Assuming they belong to Marva, this tells us that Marva had continued to work for a long time and only stopped recently when she got sick. That's explaining why she needed medicine delivered. B2 reveals Bix tried to contact him, but Cassian's comms failed, setting up Cassian insisting that B2 use comms at the end of this episode, which we find out in episode 3 is quite an overcorrection. Cassian meets Bix later in a bar and thanks her for summoning her contact, and we see how he has wrapped his hand and rubs his knuckles in this moment, trying to hide the bloody knuckles he got when he fought those cops that he killed. But Tim oversees this and drunk snitches on Cassian. The screen at first reads insert credits and then call link in Orbesh. I love how that alien one phone over grumbles and turns away annoyed to have some privacy. Back on Morlana 1, the incoming screen reads wanted for questioning at the top, and then at the bottom it lists charges. And this Morlana 1 officer reads off Cassian's past charges.
Insurrection, destruction of Imperial property, assault on an Imperial soldier.
Now this hollow projected mugshot of Cassian seems to be a younger image of Diego Luna, either de-aged or maybe photos taken during Rogue One's production. Either way, he does not yet have the shiner that he has in these episodes. Back on Ferrix, a close-up of Tim's dinner shows more blue food. In this case, it kind of looks like blue Cheerios or like Fruit Loops, oops, all blue ones. And Karn meets Sergeant Linus Mosk, aka the Dwight Schrute of Morlana 1.
Velocity in the service of inspired leadership? Is there a worthy substitute? I think not.
He is played amazingly by Alex Ferns, aka the badass coal miner in Chernobyl who strips down naked to dig a runoff tunnel beneath the radiation leak. He's also Commissioner Pete Savage in The Batman. This guy's having a moment, and Linus says,
I've seen it so. Half measures. To take it slow, to wait and see. It's a plague on discipline. Face your men, yourself, the rest of your life, knowing you did less than everything you possibly could.
yeah, there's a subtlest implication here that Mosk might have let an opportunity for advancement go by in the past, and he's been kicking himself ever since. And he goes on with my favorite line of this episode.
There's fermenting out there, sir. Pockets of fermenting. And the best way to keep the blade sharp is to use it.
Pockets of fomenting. And remember, we know Karn loved to tailor his pockets, so Mosk must know that the way to Karn's heart is through them. Actually, podcaster Holly Frey on Twitter made an awesome thread about how Cyril Karn's costume might have actually been tailored uniquely by the show's costume department compared to the other pre-Morva uniforms like Mosk's, to show how he actually stitched part of the seam on his shoulder. Cassian retrieves from a hidden compartment on the ship his NS9 Starpath unit, where indeed that Imperial seal is still intact. And back in the Kenari flashback, the leader lead girl silently slides down the dirt into the debris trench where yellow gas continues to waft up from the wreckage. Then we see Luthen Rael making his approach toward barracks, piloting a Fondor Hallcraft with a Fondor droid mod AI voice assisting him. Fondor is a planet known for its industrial shipyards and purple inhabitants mentioned in comics like Han Solo at Star's End and Darth Vader Strikes. Then as a time grappler wakes up the town, Bix wakes up to the super comforting sight of her previous night's hookup sitting in a chair staring at her. She asks for Caf, which is the in-universe Star Wars term for coffee, so Cassian gives B2 these comms, and B reminds him that only Cassian knows where Marva's cache of credits are, so if he were to die or get captured or have to leave, those credits would be lost. And as Marva looks for B, we see that there is a Bantha figurine on the shelf. Those are the big riding beasts that we see on Tatooine. I got to meet a big talking puppet version at Star Wars Celebration. I love these things. And also she finds the staff weapon that Cassian carried with him as a kid on Kenari, confirming to us that he has been in this room since he was a kid. Or like me, he's just a grown adult who likes to keep Star Wars toys lying around. Back in the flashback, the Alphas see the crew of that crashed ship, some with gas masks over their faces, all of their skin tainted yellow from the chemical detonation, but their uniforms bear the logo of the Separatist Hex icon. So this is during the Clone Wars, and these are Separatists, part of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. This is probably in the final years of the Clone Wars. Now, the Separatist that she passed before rises and immediately shoots her in the back. What a jerk. This girl's name sounds something like Monitu or Moniku, based on what the other kids are calling her. The others take down the Separatists with blow darts and, crying, carry off her body, but Cassian stays behind because he wants a taste of the goods. Meanwhile, adult Cassian approaches Zanwan's shop. The Orbesh on the outside of the building translates to Zanwan's, and Cassian fears what the guy researched about the planet Kenari.
Kenari, mid-rim, abandoned after Imperial mining disaster. Mining, everyone died. Abandoned and considered toxic, Imperial prohibition.
This might be the first time Cassian has heard how his home planet is listed, but it's interesting for them to call it an Imperial mining disaster, when those Separatist patches would have placed this probably before the Empire. But maybe there was something else going on there. Like maybe there was a kind of war crime that the Imperial records now wanted to cover up by calling it just a mining disaster. Or maybe something even worse happened there after all this went down. Either way, Cassian's now hearing how he left his sister behind on a toxic planet. Now, Karn and his unit traveled through hyperspace from Morlana 1 to Ferrix, which is a bit odd because I thought they were part of the same system. Cassian, I don't think, needed to go through hyperspace to go from Morlana 1 to Ferrix. So would they need a hyperspace jump to get there? I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it. But Linus says,
There may be some local residents who are less than enthused with our presence. You may remind them that there's a territorial forum once a month where they are free to make official complaints.
Now notice how the younger soldiers scoff at this, while it looks like the older ones remain stone-faced. It's probably because these older guys remember a time before the Empire and before Pre-Mor's contract, and therefore might have a better idea of the rough types they're about to face on Ferrix. Meanwhile, Karn gives just a dog shit motivational speech.
There's no room for doubt on the path to success. And, justice. Best of luck to us all.
And just how bad his speech is and their lack of enthusiasm just shows how these are not trained soldiers looking for a fight. They are private security dragged into this mission that they don't really care about. Now we get this nice quiet moment on the shuttle into town when Luthen gets pulled into small talk about how they're circling the landing zone. Kind of like when you're on a flight and the guy next to you is like, oh, we're just circling LAX. This flight was so expensive. What are we paying for? This guy's name is Willie and he's played by Ron Cook. Both he and Stellan Skarsgård appeared in the show Chernobyl. Skarsgård, of course, as Sherbina, and Cook as a maternity doctor. If you have not seen Chernobyl yet, it is probably the best thing that's come out on HBO in the past few years. Now, it's always interesting to hear the older characters of this era talk because they've seen so much change over their lifetimes, including Willie here.
I'm old enough. I first came here to drive in across the wasteland. They had a ground carry, drive right through. That was no bargain either. You make the round trip and taste it a week later. Just nasty.
Yeah, that taste he's referring to in his mouth was likely the iron powder from the Ferrix surface. And what does iron taste like? It is the taste of blood. This is at least partly why Luthen likely resents this propulsion dealer. Luthen totally would have preferred taking ground transportation, but only took this commercial shuttle to avoid suspicion. He is not disturbed by the taste of blood in one's mouth. And Willie leaves him with,
If you can't find it here, it's not worth finding.
and we end on the item Luthen is truly looking for, not that NS9 unit with the unbroken Imperial seal, but someone deft enough to steal something like that. Cassian Andor. And to protect himself, the blaster that Cassian carries is actually the K-16 Briar pistol from the Dark Forces game, the weapon carried by Kyle Katarn, a character that many believe actually inspired the character of Cassian Andor when they were creating him for Rogue One. Now again, my breakdown of episode 1 is already on the channel. Episode 3's breakdown is going to be coming up as soon as we can get it up tomorrow. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at EAVoss. Follow New Rockstars and subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Like I said, I really love this TV series. I feel like as far as a Star Wars fan, this is very grounded, very on the ground level, like, of what's going on. And I love episode 2 because episode 2 was showing the backstory of how Cassian grew to hate the Imperial and the Empire. I mean, as we know, there was a separatist, but he didn't really know any better. He just knew that, you know, they came, they crashed, they killed like our leader. Ever since then, he really hated the Empire. So I love how they had that flashback and moving ahead with the story of how they're trying to come find him and he has to think of a way to get out of it. And episode 3, it shows the action of how he gets out of it. So I'm really liking this. This is something different. Also, they were kind of introducing more of a love scene. So I'm thinking that they're going to get a little bit more adultish with Star Wars, and I'm here for it. Because I tell myself, it's so many different species out here in the galaxy. You don't know how people going to be messing around. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they gave a small hint of it on Solo, but I feel like we can go into more of a deep dive with these TV shows. But I'm ready for episode 3 breakdown. I'm ready for more. So, you guys enjoyed my reaction to Andor episode 2 breakdown, Star Wars Easter eggs and details you missed. Subscribe to my channel. Post comment down below. Like the video. It's your boy, D Dicey. Peace.